Welcome, everybody, to a Straub Bros Sports Show exclusive. It's time for me and Little Bro to talk about the state of the United States men's national team. And Little Bro's face says a lot in itself right there. I would like to present the show on behalf of the Straub Bros Sports Show Facebook page. We are official, live and running. Check us out on Facebook. Give us a like, give us a follow for all your exclusive Straub Bros Sports Show content. Drew, the semifinals and third place and finals of the CONCACAF Nations League took place this week. The reason I needed to mention the third place game is because the United States men's national team were upset by Panama in the semifinals, 1-0. Then went on to lose the third place game 2-1 to Canada. Bro, what in the absolute hell?
This is one of those moments where I think it is a massive reality check for one, the United States men's national team fan base, but two, I think the players themselves. And the reason I say this is because, we come into this year, we had all these expectations coming in. Obviously, after an abysmal Copa America, we fire Greg Berhalter, and this massive coaching kind of surge goes where we end up getting an ex-Premier League manager and an ex-PSG manager in Mauricio Pochettino, and all of these, expectations start to build, and all of this desire for a national team that is going to be up. And it was said by the coach and by the players that they expect to be contending for a World Cup this year. They expect to be a top 5 team in 5 to 10 years. And I think that the reality of the just little time that we have mentioned over and over again that Mauricio Pochettino has with this team before the World Cup became apparently abundant in this window, because while there was a lot of great movement, there was a lot of great passing, there's a lot of good things. I don't want to be all negative here. There's a lot of good things. There's a reason why Mauricio Pochettino, in his last stint with Chelsea, it took him 25 to 30 games and almost a full season for that Chelsea team to be good enough to make a run into a European competition, because Mauricio Pochettino's system I wouldn't say is complicated, but is something that requires such precision that you need to be working on it day in, day out for it to make sense, for it to flow, and for everything to work perfectly. And when you have, I want to say, 8 games left before the 2026 World Cup, that is not enough time. And that was the main thing that we talked about, that everyone talked about as the negative, but everyone overlooked it because it was Mauricio Pochettino and he was going to get this team in line. And yes, I know we were losing some key players, but that does not excuse it when you have probably at least 8 of your top 11 players on the field, and you struggle to break down a Panama team that was ready from the jump to just sit back and take what was given to you and then just counter you in the break. And then a Canada team that is basically going to do the same thing to you, but has the talent to actually control and dominate games. And so as a U.S. fan, the potential is there, but I don't know if we have enough time to make it a year and maybe 3 months to get to where we need to be to actually do something this World Cup.
It feels like I have more pride wearing this warm-up than they do sometimes. I get it that Mauricio Pochettino has a system that is intricate and complicated. I also don't believe that he is trying to put in his full entire process like he would be if he was training a club team that he had day in and day out. So I know for a fact it is a scaled down version of what he would run at a club team, the basics, you know what I mean? I'm tired of talking about the coaches. I'm tired. We did is criticize Greg Berhalter throughout the Greg Berhalter era. Yes, sometimes we would criticize individual players for a really bad performance or a red card. But game in and game out, we chewed out Greg Berhalter when the United States men's national team lost. We need a real coach. We need a real manager who's coached proper football teams with real knowledge. You got him. At some point, these players have to look in the bleeping mirror and decide whether or not they want to try and play as hard for their country as they do their clubs. Not just that. And I'm going to echo something that was said. It's also time for these American players who I stand on agreeing with that they are the most talented generation of players that we ever have had. However, they are not the most this is probably one of the weakest generation of players as well. They have to take some criticism with the golden generation that we're giving them, because I watch teams with far less talent beat better teams than that Panama team. It is time for these players to realize when you come up to this international level, it isn't just about playing in that system. You got to be a player. You got to take a guy one-on-one. You got to beat guys, and you have to make plays. That's how you win on the international level. And I don't want to hear that there's no playmakers out there. At some point, these players have to stand up. I don't care to necessarily talk about the Canada result, because at that point, this team was checked out. This team was beyond checked out. They didn't care that it was Canada. Canada cared that it was the U.S. The U.S. didn't care that it was Canada. I'm more interested in the Panama game. The fact that you couldn't break down for 90 minutes a Panama team that basically allowed you to have the ball. I don't care what kind of system you're playing in. Okay, at some point, all of these guys are professionals and play in Europe or play in the MLS, but have played in and across Europe before. Get on the ball, make a play, get your head up, make a run, take a guy on, have a shot, and there was none of that. There was maybe one opportunity, the Josh Sargent opportunity that was called offsides. I mean, yes, you can be critical of the fact that he started Musa at wingback, which is something that Musa didn't play. Musa didn't play horrible. How about the fact that they kept feeding the ball over to Musa instead of at no point during the first half of that game trying to feed it down the other side where you had Weah and Pulisic on the same side? Oh, well, he should have switched them around. I mean, me and you talked about that we didn't like that. There should have been a tactical switch. That Weah and Chris should have switched sides. But you know what? Mauricio Pochettino maybe also put them out there and said, feed that dominant side of the ball. We have Musa on the other side to control possession. Instead, the players decided to continue to feed Musa down the side like he's a wingback. At some point, you guys on the ball have to make better decisions with the ball. And I don't want to completely take them off the hook, but we have to shift into another part of this conversation. And we can talk about the lack of creativity in the lack of creativity in the final third. This is to give them some credit, to give them some leeway. This is the first time that a lot of these guys have finally gotten back to being able to play with each other. We haven't had a natural striker in months. We finally have Josh Sargent back. We're trying to work Giovanni Reyna back in. We didn't have Serginho Dest or Anton Robinson. So we had some issues there. And that does help with the lack of creativity. We know what Robinson can do. We know what Jedi can do on the wing as an offensive threat, as a creative threat. And we definitely lack that. This keeper situation is bleeping awful. And I kind of agree with Landon Donovan. I think at some point you should have started Zach Steffen. You've got to give someone else an opportunity. This is not Brad Friedel having control of the job because he's good. This is not Tim Howard having control of the job because he's the only guy and he's good. This isn't Brad Guzan having control of the job because he's the only guy and he's good. Matt Turner has control of the job because he's the lesser of all the lesser of all evils, not to call them evil, but he's the best of all of our bad options. We haven't seen all of our options. Zach Steffen hasn't played for the national team in 4 years, 5 years. We haven't even get Patrick Schutt a chance. Give someone else a chance. I'm tired of watching Matt Turner because now here's the problem. Now that this team has the most talent that it's ever had, what's standing out the most sometimes is a goalkeeper who didn't start playing goalie until college or high school, high school. It's starting to show because there's a lack of natural football talent in terms of being able to just play simple passes with his feet, and just a lack of sometimes knowledge of where to be on the ball. His angle on that goal was atrocious. I have seen youth goalies, I've trained them to make better angles on a ball like that. And it's a lack of years of playing. And now that he's in his prime, he's still not playing as much.
I think this comes to a point where I think you said it. They gotta look in the mirror and either figure out, are they not playing as hard because it's Panama and it's not a Mexico or it's not a European team, which I think would be an issue in itself. Or is it generally that because we are playing a professional system now, nobody is getting covered? You know what I mean? Your center backs aren't covering the mistakes of your goalkeeper. Your midfielders isn't covering the mistakes of your center backs. You are playing a system where everyone is being held accountable. And I think we're starting to see where the cracks actually lie. And I think that's in your aggressiveness of your wingers. And I think that's in your goalkeeping situation. Now, one can be fixed very easily. I think that is telling Christian Pulisic, telling Weah, telling anyone on that wing, listen, if you get the ball and there's no good options, just go. Just attack.
Yes.
Because there's no reason to not try something and just honestly play Greg Berhalter ball at times and just put 40 crosses in the box, where you have a guy like Josh Sargent, which he's decent in the air, but he's not great. He's not, a Pepe who's really good in the air or, anything like that. So
Maligan, who can get on the ball, Haji Wright and Daryl DK, who are bigger guys who can get their head to a ball. But go ahead.
And so that one I think is easily fixable with just some tweaking and just reinforcing of the, hey, you have the ability to do this. I think the goalie situation one is tricky in the fact of, I'm not saying tricky in the fact of you don't want to get rid, you don't want to get returned, because I don't think he's now earned any starting opportunities. I think that went out the window last window he was here, and then it got reinforced that I don't think he deserves the job now. But I think it's tricky in the fact of now you have to bank on a hot goalkeeper during the World Cup and not a steady one that we've been used to. Because listen, even in the last World Cup, Matt Turner has started pretty much that whole year and was your steady option and did really good in the World Cup. I don't think he was hot for a year. I think he was a solid option. Now, unless someone comes in the summer or in that September window and just takes that job, you are going to have to rely on whatever goalkeeper is playing their best at the moment. And that's a really sketchy situation going into a World Cup. It might be okay, but now you got to think, is Zach Steffen going to be good, or is he going to go back to his form when he was at Middlesbrough? Is Patrick Schulte going to continue this good form at Columbus, or is it just because it's the MLS? is Gaga Slonina, a 19-year-old, going to be okay enough to even be ready for this job? You don't have many options in terms of solid options, but you got to try something else, because throwing this guy out who's 25, 26 and is at his near post when a guy's making a run to the other side and isn't getting any playing time other than some cup games for Crystal Palace, you have to see that this isn't the right way to go. And I know it worked for Turner last year at Nottingham Forest, that, even though he wasn't playing, he was still playing well. You can tell that now it's almost a year and a half to 2 years he hasn't been a consistent starter. And maybe you can get away with a year, but definitely not 2. And so now he's
not a starter in the Premier League. It's over. It's been seen.
You have to play now a guy who's playing consistent minutes. And there's a plentiful of options. We have a lot of young goalkeepers in the MLS. You have Zach Steffen, you have Patrick Schulte, you have Matt Freese in New York City, who's playing really, really well. I know Drake Callender isn't starting for Miami right now, but hell, he started all last year into the playoffs as well. So he's an option. You have options available. And Gaga Slonina, who's starting League One games at Barnsley. You have options available. But and I think this might have been a last gasp for Turner, potentially. Okay. So that's the only thing I think I would give Pochettino. If we come in next and he's not the starter and he's still not starting, then I'd be okay. But if he is still the starter and he's not starting at his club, then I have to ask serious questions of Pochettino and saying, what are you seeing in these other goalkeepers that's so bad that you can't give them a shot?
And that's what's frustrating to me. This is the only position he's doing this for, Mauricio Pochettino. Every other position on this field has been pretty much open.
Yeah.
Yes, the Robinsons, the McKennies, the Pulisics, the Musas, the Weahs. Yes, they've played and earned themselves right back up to the top of the pecking order. But look at that bench. That bench was filled with January. Every spot that was dropped, where there were multiple January call-ups that got called up, and every spot that was open to an injury was filled by one of those January call-ups. He has been open about all positions except for this goalkeeping position. It's just been Matt Turner, and I don't understand it. You allowed everyone else to play, and now what is considered by me and a lot the most important position on the field in some sorts. I know it's turned into you must have the ball, but you cannot have a liability in goal. And what I saw against Panama was, when it mattered, a liability in goal. You've got to give someone else a chance. If we go into, like you said, 6 games until the World Cup, which means for me, that's 4 spots for a different goalie. You got, or maybe 3. That's 3 games per goalie, or 1 game per goalie, and then we go from there. I cannot be okay, and I will not be okay if we go into our next game and Matt Turner is the starter. We have to try something else. If it doesn't work for those 2 or 3 games and we have to go back to Matt Turner, fine, but we've got to try something.
Yeah. So I guess to wrap that up, we got, I want to say, let's see, it's March 25th as the time of this recording. We got about a year and 3 months, so that's 15 months until the World Cup in the United States, just to kind of get everyone, while we are ranting, get everyone excited, because it's going to be an amazing time regardless of how the U.S. does.
And we're in no matter what. So we don't have to worry.
We can't not qualify. But we don't have games coming up until June. So that'll be the window there, and that'll kind of see what we can do. We have games. I know a game against Northern Ireland is officially confirmed, and then we'll see what the other game is that's going to be confirmed. But hey, I know we talk a lot and we're very angry, but like I said in the beginning of the show, there is the potential there. I saw the play, I saw the movement. We just gotta get all together, and I think.
And what we can hope for is that this is the low point. You get the high of the new manager and the new coach. And hopefully this is the low point that then starts to build us back up, because like you said, this team is full of talent. This is a golden generation in terms of talent on this United States men's national team from top to bottom. But
there's a lot of work to do. And
yes.
unfortunately, there's not a lot of time to do it. We will see what changes are made come June and how we perform then. Unfortunately, we are still playing home games, which I think is a detriment to us, but that's just me.
Especially when they're in empty stadiums.
Yep, but we will see what happens.
Absolutely. There not a lot of time, but there is time. What I do hope is that with all of the criticism that these players have faced and seen all over social media, with all of the pundits, all of these ex-players either rallying people behind them, but also giving some harsh criticism, I hope these players kind of sit on it and take it back for a couple weeks and come back in June and know, all right, that's it. We had our mess up. There are no mess ups from this point forward. So, and I truly believe that will be the attitude going forward. So, yes, we'll rant now, but we end this with hope going forward that we believe it will get better.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to wrap it up because I don't want to rant anymore on this team.
No.
It's caused me enough heartache this weekend.
We love them enough. We had to get it out. That'll do it for us here on the Straub Bros Sports Show, United States Men's National Team exclusive. Follow us on Facebook, Straub Bros Sports Show. Give us a like and follow there, and subscribe to the YouTube page, Straub Bros Sports Show. Thank you, guys.